So hello and welcome back to Blake's Den, and this is my 1989 Austin Mini designer project, and in this video I'm going to investigate the engine and see if it will run. Let's make a start. Yeah, so this is my 1989 designer project which I've been working on for some time now. I've kind of got the back end sorted. That's new subframe, all rebuilt, all fine. There's still bodywork bits to do, but mechanically I think I'm going to start working on the front. One of the things I've wanted to do for some time now is to take out this engine. That'll allow me to paint the engine bay. I can paint the engine, clean it all up, because it should be yellow and it's black. Probably just because of dirt. Generally give it a once over. But before I take it out, I could do with knowing what condition the engine's in to see whether it needs any mechanical work. I don't believe it does. It's run quite well previously. But I'm going to do some basic checks on it. First job I need to do is put the alternator back on. The alternator, the fan belt goes around the alternator and the fan and the water pump. So that needs to go back on. I'd actually taken the alternator off because I was going to put it on my Ford 3000 tractor, and there's a video on that. This alternator was seized. I've unseized it, tested it, it works. I was going to put it on my tractor, but I ended up putting a different mini one on my tractor, only because this one's date stamped the 20th week of 1988 and has the Austin Rover stamp on it. So it's the original one. So I just wanted to put it back on. So I'm going to whip this back on now. Fairly straightforward. It's just 3 bolts hold it on. And then we can do some investigations of the engine. Alternator is back on now. Really easy job with the grill off. It's actually harder than the MPI. The MPI alternator sits here. Don't even have to take the grill off. Right, one thing I want to do is I want to do a compression check on this engine, where you basically see what sort of compression your 4 cylinders are getting. To do that, I need the spark plugs out. I've already numbered the spark plug leads 1 to 4, going from the clutch side of the gearbox that way. Not sure whether that's right or wrong, but at least that's the system I'm using. So I'm going to pull off the HT leads, and I'm going to whip out those spark plugs, and then I'm actually going to put a little bit of oil down the bores because this hasn't turned in 3 years really, so it's just to help lubricate everything once I start spinning it over on the starter motor. Got the 4 plugs out now. They don't look too bad, a little bit sooty. I mean, the last time I had this running, it wasn't running for long. And I've just got some WD-40. I'm just going to squirt down each bore. That'll just help lubricate piston rings and top end and stuff like that when I spin it over. Now I should be able to spin the engine over a bit if I put the car into gear and just rock it backwards and forwards. So let's try that. Right, I've got the car in 4th now. I've clamped you in the engine bay. And hopefully, if you watch the fan, there we are, engine's turning over. So the engine's free, which is good. So I'm just working that oil in, and then next thing I'll do, I'll get a battery on it, and then I can spin it over and spit all that oil out. Came round the back to put the battery in and realised I only had a negative cable, not a positive. The positive I'd taken off when I did the subframe, so I've just pushed that back through. I'm going to put a new clamp on there, and then we can get a battery in. I've thrown a battery on there, no fires, which is good. Some signs of life on the dashboard. The car has never started on the key since I've had it. Problem with the starter solenoid, thinks it's bad earth, but it will work if you jumper it out with a screwdriver, old school style. So that's what I'm going to do now. That'll throw the oil out, and then we can do a compression check. So I've checked that the car's out of gear, which it is. And now if I jumper out the big terminal to the little terminal, a bit like that, it should should want to crank. Why is it not cranking? I think it's just dirty. Or it could be the battery's a bit dead. I think that battery might be a bit dead. Let's try a different one. Right, new battery on. Freshly charged. I'm just going to keep it out of the way because I'm going to get covered in oil here. So that all seems to be spinning over nicely. There was a bit of oil came out, which was good. Now I'm going to compression check it. So this is my compression test gauge. Just a dial that gives you a reading. And what you do, you'll just spin the engine over until the pressure goes up and settles. So I've got in number 1 now, so let's give it a go. So what we're looking for is sort of consistency across the engine. That first one's at about 150 psi, so I'm just going to make a note of that, then I'll do all 4. The results are in. Cylinder 1 was 150, 2 125, 3 135, 4 140. So 2, 3 and 4 were all about the same. 1 was a bit higher, and the Haynes helpfully doesn't give you a value. The internet has wildly different values all the way from 130 up to 180. For me, that seems healthy. It's a cold engine. I didn't have the throttle open, so it may have been choking the engine a bit, not letting enough air in. Yeah, I can live with that. I think it'll come round a bit. The values will probably come up, giving it a bit of a run. The key thing is none of the cylinders were really, really low on pressure, which was the main thing I was worried about. So now I'm going to throw a spark plug in and check if we've got spark. I suspect we won't. I suspect I'll have to file the points and clean the points up. But if we've got spark and if we've got compression, all we need is a bit of fuel and then brum brum. So this time I've got the ignition on and a spark plug in, and we'll see if we've got spark. Not sure if the camera caught that, but yes, we've definitely got spark. Exciting. I was going to say at the start, but I forgot. I have got oil in this. I've checked. It's got oil in. It's got fresh oil in. And when I first got this, it actually had an oil leak and it dumped all of its oil out. So it's got fairly fresh oil in it. So well, we should be fine there. And it's got water in the rad as well. Right, I am going to put the spark plugs back in. I think I'll then rig up a fuel system and we'll see if this will run. Just pulled the airbox off there. When I had this running previously, I just had a line hooked up straight into the carburetor float. The fuel pump is still connected, but there's no fuel tank in the car, so I can't use that. But what I have got is this boat fuel tank, which I've never used before. So I'm hoping I can use that to prime it up. It's got a primer bulb on. That'll fill up the float, and then I can use that to run the car. So I just need to see if I can scrounge some petrol from one of the other vehicles. And yeah, hopefully we'll have this running. I'm that confident this is going to run. I've pulled it outside and it started to rain, but luckily I'm under the carport. So I think we'll check it is out of gear. We'll put the choke on, put the ignition on, crank it and see what happens. Let's see what happens here. It's only got half an exhaust on it, that's why it's so loud. Right, I'm going to see if I can get it running for a bit. Again, I've just sanded the points. The spark wasn't that great. And I've just pushed the choke in a bit more. So let's see what happens. I think it's got fuel delivery problems. It seems to surge and then go off again, which is not surprising given how long it's been sitting. But at least I just want to get it running for a little bit longer. Try without choke. The engine sounds quite sweet. I can't hear any tapping noises, knocking noises or anything like that. Obviously she doesn't want to run very well, but I mean, I wouldn't want to run very well if I'd been sat in the garage for 3 years. I think it's struggling for fuel. Situation update. I wasn't happy if the tank was working, so I've gone with the bottle here, round into the fuel pump, out the fuel pump. I've just realised that is the fuel in, not that one. That's a return line. So what I was probably doing, I was filling it up, but then it was just draining out. I think that should be attached onto it, and it just drains away down there. So let's see if it'll run. It'll take a while to draw the petrol through. Well, let's give it a go. Should have just poured some straight down the carburettor, really. In fact, I think I will do that. Try again. What's this take? 594,000? Check I've got no fuel leaks. Is it going to stay running? I think it is. Stumbling a little. See if I can give it a bit of rev. Didn't like that. Right, see if it'll go again. Right, I've got that running now and a bit of choke just to get the revs up a bit. I'll push the choke in after a minute or two once it's established itself. Well, I think that's enough for now. It's running quite smoothly. It's hard to tell because of the exhaust noise, but no tapping noises, no oil pouring out of anywhere, no fuel pouring out of anywhere, no problems with the valves. I couldn't hear any sticking valves or bent push rod. There was no smoke coming out of the exhaust. I even put my multimeter on the battery and the battery was charging. So that alternator, the original one's good. Fuel pump works. Obviously that was pulling fuel through, so that's good. Carb probably needs a clean out. Most carburetor cars which have sat for a while will need a clean anyway. So yeah, overall I'm quite happy with that. You know, electrics work, coil works, distributor works. It was revving up fine. The only thing I can't do is crank it on the key, but that's another issue. So I'm quite happy with that. That gives me the confidence to then take this engine out, which seems a bit counterintuitive, clean it all up, tart it all up, get it all looking nice and pretty, get the engine bay nice and pretty and drop it back in without needing to tear into the engine, replace anything in the engine. I've not tried the clutch, I've not tried the gears. Before I bought this car, like a long time before, well it was like maybe a year and a half before I bought it, I did drive it. All 4 gears, clutch was fine. Just after that, the car was laid up, not used, and then I bought it. So, and I think I have driven it since I've got it as well, just backwards and forwards, and tested the gear, so I'm happy with the gearbox as well. So overall, I think that's a bit of a win. I think I'll leave it as that. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope it's inspired you to do something on your mini project, or even to get a mini project, if that's your thing. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed it, press that like button. Any questions, fire them down below. I respond to all my comments. And please consider subscribing to the channel. It costs you nothing. See you in the next video. Bye for now.